Hello, and welcome to episode 16 on the CentriCraft server. And I'm starting over here because it has quite a nice view of what I'm building. And I've already started recording this episode, and I discovered partway through that it wasn't recording my microphone. So instead of going back over all that footage and just trying to remember what I said and re-recording it in time, I think I'm just going to explain what I've done so far with this build, and yeah, I'll just show you around it. So what I'm building is just over here, and it's a kelp farm. So the idea is I put kelp in it, and it's going to automatically produce lots and lots of kelp for me. I'll show you with this module what's going on because it's probably easiest to see. I might just go to sleep quickly first though, so it's daytime. I'm not going to get exploded by a creeper. Right, here we go. That's a little better. It's daytime now. So the idea is, inside this sort of tube, it's filled with water, and I'm going to put kelp in there. And on the second block up at the back, you might be able to just see there, those are pistons all the way along. Then in the middle, there's an observer just above. So when the kelp grows 3 tall in this middle one, it activates the observer, which activates a redstone line. So all these pistons push out and break the kelp one below that. And then all that kelp, because objects move up in water, all of the bits of kelp will float to the top and then over the top here. So if I get up the top quickly. Oh, I can't get round. There we go. You can see at the back here how it's wired up. So the observer runs straight into a line of redstone, and then that powers all the pistons, which are just in there. And then at the top of all of these, the water goes 1 block higher than the glass. So it's pushing you and the kelp eventually towards this middle bit. And that doesn't look right. I think I might be missing a water source here. So I'll quickly sort that out. And I don't have any water. I'll fix that in a moment. But the idea is it then pushes all the kelp into this middle one, and then the signs are holding the water back, but objects can still pass through them. And then down here, there will be a water stream, which moves all the kelp along to one end, and then it's going to drop down below. And then below, I'm going to build up a system that smelts all the kelp, and then outputs it into a chest, and then I can craft that up into kelp blocks, which I can then use some of as fuel for the kelp smelter itself, and there should be extra left over because you get more from smelting it than is used to smelt it. So you get an excess of the kelp blocks, and then I can use that for smelting anything else I need to smelt. That's a general idea of that. So yeah, I've built up a few of these modules. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to put around this at the moment, because obviously it's going to need some sort of building here. I could go with another barn sort of style thing, but I'm not 100% sure, so I'll see what works out best once I've got all the kelp in and all the water streams flowing it to below. Right, so I've put in water streams, and when I was doing that, I realised I actually wanted to disconnect the observers temporarily from here, because the water in the middle was downwards flowing water, which meant when the items dropped, they wouldn't actually float all the way up. So I disconnected them, and I'm going to let all the kelp grow all the way to the top, because when kelp grows through water, it makes it a source block. So then there will be source blocks, and then when it's functioning, and the pistons break it, it'll be able to float all the way up because none of the water will be flowing downwards. So yeah, that's that. And then I've got all these water streams in, so it's flowing down. Whenever it would run out, I have it drop down another block. And again, I could make it ice underneath the water, but I don't think I really need to worry because water should push it along just fine. And then I'm having them all drop in. So I've got one here, one I thought it was at the end here. No, hang on. I'm going to have to work out where... Oh, no, it was here. One there drops in, and then the third one drops in at this end here, which I've had to build this sort of wooden structure around. I might end up turning that into a sort of hillside, do some terraforming on the outside so it fits in. But I'm going to open up this area in the middle, have them all flow in and go into a smelting system down here. So I noticed some of the kelp wasn't growing all the way up, so I'm having a look at it, and yeah, it's reached its max here. You might notice there's some little flower bits on this, and that's because there's a resource pack, which is just like a texture changer thing, which can distinguish the top of kelp, because once it gets that high, it stops growing. So it's from Vanilla Tweaks by Exumavoid. So I'll try and leave a link to it in the description. But yeah, it means you can see when kelp stopped growing because it's reached its maximum age, which has happened here. So I'm going to go into there and break those bits of kelp, possibly place some kelp on top of it. I don't know if that works or not, so I'm going to grab some kelp and try. And then hopefully I can have it grow all the way up to the top. I've also just heard this zombie, and came in here, and it would appear somewhere there's a spawnable space in here. I don't know whether he actually spawns on top of the hopper itself, or whether... Can they spawn inside sugarcane? I'm not even sure. So I think I need to light up the inside here. And yeah, because I've actually had a zombie appear in there before. Oh, the parrot's just flown to me because I took damage. Yeah, so I'm going to need to put some lighting in there. Can you place torches on glass? You cannot. Okay, interesting. I might put one up there. Yeah, if I just break this so I can get in, and I'm going to put some lighting on the inside here. There, and is there anywhere in here I can place it? No, there is not. Okay, hopefully that will stop wherever it's spawning. Yeah. So I've now got all of these full of kelp, so all of the water should be source blocks of water. So you can see it's all full over there. Some of them I removed the kelp from one to put onto another because I ran out of kelp at the end. So I should be able to reconnect these now, and I might have to manually go in and break the one in front of the observers to get it to activate. So if I go in... Where is it? Ah, here. There we go. And all of it went up and over, except some of the ones which I've collected. But none of it's floating down here by the looks of it, so that's good. That means that has worked, turning it all into source blocks. So let's jump down here, connect those up, and then I need to do this line out here. And just one piece in there. Then I just need to update all of the observers, and I should have it all working. Although currently it's all going to be just chucking out the kelp onto the floor down here. So I'm going to have to get these water streams up and ready and feeding into a smelter. Right, so I've come up with a design for the smelter I'm going to be using. I decided I wanted a design where it would only smelt it once it gets up to 20 kelp in it. Unfortunately, comparators don't measure exactly to 20, so it has to wait until there's 28. So there's always 8 extra kelp just sitting around in the furnace. But that's not an 8 every time it does a smelt, it's just 8 continuously. So yeah, and it's replicable sort of 2 ways. So if I feed the stream of kelp into a chest, into a double chest like this, I can then have it feed out 2 ways. So I can copy this design over onto this side, which you can see I've started doing. So the idea here is that if I put some kelp in here, it's going to filter into the furnace, and when it gets up to 28, the comparator signal will get strong enough here that it pushes this piston across here, which both fires this dropper behind it, which will be filled with the fuel, and that'll put one fuel into here, which will start smelting up this, and this will also power this hopper above the furnace, and that will lock, so no more kelp is going in. So then this is draining into these hoppers, which will drain into a chest somewhere, and then once it's finished, that will give an update to this observer just here, which will, I'll just remove this momentarily, power this piston, which will push this block next to this observer. Because this is an observer and this is a sticky piston, it ticks the piston fast enough that the block gets fired out and gets left over here. And then the observer detects that and will push the redstone block back over, resetting the system, so it can then let the kelp filter in again until there's 28 pieces in the furnace. So I'll wait until it's almost done and then show you that. Right, so it's getting near the end now. It will actually finish when it gets to, I think it's 9, because you've got the 8 spare ones from it being 28 instead of 20, and the kelp block smelts 20 items, so there'll be 8 left over, and then there's 1 extra, which I think is to do with it taking a tick to freeze this hopper. So you see there, it fires back over, and now the kelp is trickling back in again on this side. So you'll see in a moment it reaches 28 and it starts smelting again. And the whole process starts again until there's not enough kelp to refill it. And then it just sits with this not fully active and waits until it is full to restart the process. So now I just need to replicate this design underneath the kelp farm in the CentriCraft server. So I've now copied that design into the server world, and I've got it set up here. So you can see one of these is smelting some stuff, and they've started putting some dried kelp into the chests below. Seems to be an interesting feature where more of the kelp goes to one side than the other here, and I assume that's just to do with how the hoppers take from this chest. So really what's going to be happening is just one side's going to be working, but I do have the other side here as a sort of overflow protection. So if all of these hoppers fill up, then it will start using this side as well. So I guess it's good that I've got that there as well, but most of it seems to be going through this side. And yeah, it all seems to be working as expected. And I've put some crafting tables down here so that if I just leave this for ages, I should get plenty of dried kelp coming through. And then I can come down here, break the chests, and craft up all the dried kelp into dried kelp blocks to then use as fuel. So I can put some of it back into the system, back in here, and I can then take some away to whatever smelting project I need to be doing. So there is a question of what to do with all the kelp that I've currently got hanging around here. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put most of it into the chest to be smelted up automatically with the rest of the stuff I have. So yeah, I'm just going to take a whole load of this and go through. And I've actually put in a little tunnel around the back here to take me through so I don't have to go outside every time. I also have a tiny staircase here, which will take me up into my auto farms, my sugarcane, melon and pumpkin farms. Sugarcane doesn't seem to be producing very much at all, so it might be I do have to build a big one in future, particularly if I want to make my own rockets, although I'd have to put in a creeper farm for that as well anyway. Need to craft up these melon slices, but yeah, that's a little route down here, and then along here, and then that actually goes out to the world, so I need to block up that end of the tunnel. But this comes in here, into the smelter side, rather than having to go out and around the back of the kelp farm. So I'm going to put all this kelp into this chest, and hopefully some of it should go to this side as well. Yeah, here we go. I think that's because if there's enough items in there, both of the hoppers are able to pull an item, but when it sort of trickles in, and it's only got a few items, they go in and then are immediately pulled out. And I think this hopper pulls before this one does. So that's just going to be an update order thing. So I don't think there's any need to stop that. If I get large amounts, it will split. If it just trickles in, then it will just all go into one side, which is fine, to be honest. So yeah, I'm going to stick with that. Right, so I do need to decorate this whole area, but I think I'm going to leave that for a different episode, and then I can work out what I'm doing with decorating the top as well, and possibly doing some light terraforming around this hill to make it look a bit prettier. But apparently there's something in the shopping district which I should be checking out, so I'll see you there in just a moment. Right, so I'm here in the shopping district, and there's a very cool lighthouse over here. I think as one of Amradorn's, and aha, here's what I'm looking for. So I'm not actually sure what this is, but I know this is because we've got Valentine's Day coming up. We're going to be doing some sort of event. So let's see what it says. Okay. Hi Centrix, V-Day is almost here. To spread good vibes and energy here on the CentriCraft server, I invite you to write a nice message to one or many of the Centrics. Okay. So, okay, there's books and quills to write messages and then to leave in their mailboxes. So I'm going to have to work out who I want to send a message to and what sort of thing to say. So, also, before I leave, I've noticed the Santa hat and quite a few things over here are pink, which is a nice little touch. I've got a little archway here, and that's a cute pink and red mushroom. Ah. Yeah, you might also notice the shopping district island is very grassy now. So quite a few of us, mainly Raging Donuts, have been placing grass down all over the island. I think Cake Man's been supplying a lot of the grass, but quite a few of us have been working on bits, and yeah, most of the islands become grass now, which looks really nice in a mushroom biome. So yeah, that's pretty cool as well. So I've quickly thrown in some manual furnaces around the side here, mainly because as I started with a lot of kelp, I wanted to give it a helping hand getting it all through and hopefully getting a lot of blocks out of it. So yeah, I've got these going as well with some kelp in them just to help get it started while I've got a whole load of kelp which is sort of backlogged. So yeah, hopefully that'll add to that. I'll probably keep them here because this will be where I'm getting fuel from, so it might be I want to smelt a load of stuff, and until I have a actual super smelter, I'm going to be using manual smelting anyway, so I might as well put some in here so it's easy to get the fuel and then use them. Alright, and that's going to be all for this episode. As always, I'd love to hear your feedback down in the comments. If you want to see the other Centrics videos, the links to their channels will be in the description. I've been Recoded Zaphod, and thanks for watching.